Was there any big... yes, I believe there was one big patch of coal that we had somewhere around here. Can't remember where. There is one big patch of coal. This was a patch of iron. Ah, there was the big patch of coal. We already cleared it out. There's more coal here, so we're gonna mine this patch of coal out. Yeah, next time around we're gonna increase the amount of hatches we're growing to avoid coal shortages. The coal shortages only happen during the time when we run out of natural gas anyway. Not big of a deal anymore. But it's a beautiful thing to see when your colony is running smoothly and everything is working as intended, or mostly working as intended. Is that the last bit of water? Is there any ice left in there to melt? Well, it's the steam mostly that's doing that though, to be honest. That's condensing. Oh well. Mistakes have been made, but that's how you learn. Most of my mistakes are from being reckless. Okay, Galaxy, then have a good night and thanks for dropping by. Hopefully I'll see you on Wednesday with whichever game I decide to play, and on Sunday we're gonna be playing Factorio. So drop in if you can. Have a good night then. Okay, so what we were doing here is mining this out. Again, just because I want to. There is no really reason to do this, but I'm gonna leave it alone while we collect coal. Oh, there is another yes, here is the patch of coal that they already started. I'm blind and I didn't see it. The last bit. Okay, we're not making enough power. I just noticed that this isn't connected properly. Or is it? So this is supposed to connect. Oh, it was going into the gas tanks before. So this is only powering one generator over here. That's why it was missing. Didn't notice that. So yeah, another thing I will have to do differently, because I get confused in all of the things. This pipe network here isn't optimized as it should be. Plenty of places to make improvements, but that's essentially what Oni is, making improvements. We're running out of the what little natural gas is left here, but now it's micrograms, so we won't be getting much out of this anymore. And once that's out, we will be back on the mercy of the petroleum generator. I will turn it on. At that point, we have plenty of lumber. Which will of course increase the temperature again, and it'll increase the CO2 again, but you know, just for a short while, and it doesn't really matter. Okay, let's just check the situation up here. Yeah, when all of this water finally condenses, then this will stop being leaky. I am happy with the fact that we did manage to get to see this working. It didn't work perfectly, and it didn't work for very long, and the reason why it didn't work perfectly is because these scanners didn't have enough view. They don't have perfect coverage, so they didn't get to work on the doors as they should. Normally, when you do have this working properly, and when you do have a good coverage, then the doors close before the first meteor strikes, and they're open just as the meteor stops falling. The thing is, I do need to figure out something to protect the things with it, because once the danger passes and these doors are open again, this regolith falls and it's hot, so it'll cause damage. So ideally I want that to fall above that, so it doesn't damage the solar panels. Like I mentioned before, and I have explained how heat transfers from one surface to another. This is in a vacuum, so as long as it's hot but it's not touching anything else, it won't transfer that heat over, since there is no gas to work as an intermediary for that heat to transfer onto. So even if it's just one tile ahead or above, if it's in vacuum, that heat could be 5,000 degrees, but it won't transfer over to the solar collector. If I just leave it like this, like I did, and the stuff falls on top of the collectors, they get damaged and then they die. So that's what we're trying to avoid. And we have a Squeaky Puffed. What does the Squeaky Puffed do? Squeaky Puffed eats chlorine and excretes bleachstone. If I had a use for either of those, then that would be a useful critter. But unfortunately, well, bleachstone is good for essentially removing germs. It's not... It kills germs, but it's not effective for anything else. The germ situation here is improving, it seems. But there are still plenty of germs being born. Less now because there's water here, but still. Now we do not want to dig this all the way through because we don't want to mix this water and this water. So let's just do this, just in case. You should be in bed, Abe. Now this is the setup if you want to make an oxygen generator from polluted water. This is the setup you're looking at. 3 spaces between, so they can jump between this with plenty of air. You'll have more than enough filtration medium for all of these, and it'll make clay, and you can use clay as feed for something. Not really sure. One of the critters eats clay. I think these guys do actually. No, they don't. There is. Do they eat clay? Yeah, they do eat clay. So hatches eat clay. and regolith is a perfect filtration medium, and you will never run out of regolith. I look at this mountain of regolith that came just from the moment I looked away, and you can get these running indefinitely, and you can make tons and tons of oxygen. This probably makes more oxygen than this oxygen generator here because of the sheer volume. All you need to do is make this shallow, so you want it to be very shallow, and you want it to have slime in it, and it will make tons and tons of oxygen. The only problem is that there will be germs in the oxygen, but you can see here where the chlorine is. You can put a layer of chlorine between them and the oxygen, and all the oxygen that goes through that chlorine will be cleansed of all the germs. So you can make a little chlorine filter between them, because the chlorine will always uh, hover above the CO2 and heavier gases, but below oxygen. So if you put some chlorine here, it'll hover just above the surface. It'll still be making oxygen, but it will be that oxygen will be having to go through the chlorine, and the chlorine will cleanse it of all the germs. And that's where you can get clean water. Different ways that you can go around it is you can create an area where germs cannot survive in, and just put an automated door with a germ sensor, so the door only opens when there are no germs, or there's less than, let's say, 500 germs or whatever, and that will let all the oxygen in. Ideally, you want to do this with polluted water and not with slime, because the polluted oxygen, which is made with just polluted water, is free of germs. So it's like this. This one has food poisoning germs, but those can't go into oxygen. They don't propagate. That's essentially how this thing works. So you want this to be shallow so that it evaporates, preferably with no slime in it, and then just let it. What we need is, and I hope that Clay does that, is we need a bottle maker. You can have a mod that makes bottles, so you can have a bottle maker mod, but we need a bottle maker for liquids. And I hope, when I say a bottle maker, a way of transferring bottles, because right now if you want to transfer a bottle from point A to point B, the only way to do that is through a pitcher pump and a bottle emptier. There is no way to actually move a bottle, unfortunately. And why I say that? Well, if you actually have bottles instead of an area ward, that actually makes more oxygen, and you want it to actually be bottled. So the best way, arguably, to do a polluted water oxygen generator is to make a thin layer of water, then have a dupe come in and mop it, turn it into bottles, then again pour in some water, have a dupe in, and mop it, and just repeat the process over and over and over again until you have what you need. There is you can cheese it by having a bottle emptier that you constantly turn on and off as you need it, so that it doesn't, so that the dupes don't bring in the water that you bottled back. You can also make it that there is a door that you can have a trigger to open, so that they make the bottles on the door. Then you open the door, the bottles fall down, and then you close the door and you repeat the process. So you can do it like that as well. Like I said, there's a million ways you can do it. There is no right way to play this game. There's a million wrong ways to play this game, but I mean, if you're playing it wrong after a certain point, you're doing it on purpose. Which can be fun as well, to be honest. Let's see. We actually have 3 or 4 oxygen sources this time around, which is surprising. I don't usually have that many. I usually rely on just the oxygen generator, but this time around we have we have this thing unintentionally making more oxygen, and we have this. I do want to learn how to tame the volcanoes properly, because that's such a waste. I want to use them. I mean, I don't need them. I get tons and tons of iron from outer space, literally falling on top of my head. But I want to play with volcanoes, but they are so difficult to tame. This is awaiting iron ore. Are we out of iron ore? No, we are not out of ore. Why are you not fixing this? Fix this, please. There's no water here anymore. Just come here and fix that, please. Thank you. We have enough coal now, so we're good. We're lacking some critters though, but we are branching more, so that's gonna be fine. We have rows. We did lose the pips because I wasn't being careful and they died out. I was mentioning that in one of the previous streams. When you have a certain number of pips, I think there is probably a way to automate this. Just didn't figure out how yet. When you have a certain amount of pips, you don't really want to make more of them. And then I wasn't breeding them, and then they all pretty much died very close to each other, and I didn't have enough eggs to bring more. So unless we get more pip eggs from here, we're not gonna have any more pips this time around. Also, we don't need these anymore. We can break these. We have more than enough food, but I'm still making food. Yeah, we were playing with the berries, but the water became too hot. Again, I have to make the water loop better next time around. I'll make a temperature gauge and just do it properly. I just didn't think. See, this water is 24. I should have made this water tank sooner. Make a water tank where I'm actually putting cool water into. I just didn't know how to cool it, and then the solution to it presented itself just by putting ice into the water, which is honestly something I should have thought about a long time before. And yeah, just wasn't thinking. I mean, this thing probably didn't erupt in a very, very long time because all of this is just water from the melted ice. Since we got it this far, might as well dig it all the way. I will put in this so that I can reach this. Yeah, this is a lie. And like we're a gram off. No, we're fine. Between this making oxygen, this making oxygen, and an oxygen generator, which is overpressurized, no, we're not lacking oxygen. Plus all the extra oxygen being made randomly around the map because I'm not paying attention to it. Overheat damage from this water? Probably from this water. Let's sweep this and this. Doesn't have anywhere to go though, so let's give it somewhere to go. gonna put here a bottle emptier. We probably should have done this quite some time ago, but I just couldn't be bothered. There, and pitcher pump here. This is for regular water, and put 7. And that'll sort that problem out quite nicely. And we can deconstruct this pitcher pump that should have deconstructed a long time ago. There we go. Problem solved. Now you should have somewhere to put that water in. And you did. It's still getting overheated though. Probably because the temperature is so high. Should have made you out of gold. Yeah, the temperature is dropping now, but it's already past the point. When it gets broken, I'll just fix it with, replace it with gold instead. So let's deconstruct it immediately and just make it with gold. Yeah, it's gonna break, but that's fine. We're gonna replace that with gold. This is when you reach late game, and if your base is laid out properly, you reach this funny position where you can just hover around various parts of the map and just see what you can do and what you want to do, because your base runs like clockwork and you don't really have to worry about it, which is nice. The beginning of each colony is where the hectic part lies, and where you have to be careful and consider everything. But then you reach this point, and at this point you're golden. If you set up your base properly in the beginning, now you can play around. You can even make mistakes and it won't really do much difference. Like there was a major outbreak of germs, and no panic whatsoever. It's already under control. It's already getting under 1,000. And all we did was just laid this thing lower. Germs get killed in oxygen, the slime lung germs, so by the time it reaches the point where it actually can get out, it's clean, essentially. There we go. So this will now end up to be just a little pool of water, which is fine. It's gonna be full of algae and it's gonna be full of slime, or both of which we need for these and these. I've left the oxygen diffusers because they don't really work when there is a max gas pressure, and right now they can't even work. But they essentially work as backups. Should there be a time where the oxygen in the base drops, then they kick in. Right now they don't waste any algae, they don't waste any power because they're off. I mean they are on, but they are not working, so they work as backups. So in the case that it ever comes a time where I'm not making enough oxygen and the pressure here drops, they kick in and replace whatever oxygen needs to be replaced. Some people would argue for algae distillers, not distillers, but the algae terrariums. I would vote against using those ever. Well, there is a situation in which they can be useful, and here is the reason why. Early game, you get them as the first oxygen generation method available, and if you don't have a way of powering, then they are fine. But what you need for them is 30 grams of algae and 300 grams of water. That's 3 kilograms of water. Water is limited in the beginning, and you don't want to use water on things like this that you don't need to use it on. There is one there is one good thing about it, is that you get that water back as polluted water. But you get 10 grams less of it, so you lose 10 grams of water each time you use the algae terrarium. Now that's not a big loss of water. It doesn't really matter that much, but it comes back as polluted water, so you have to, if you want to use it again, you have to clean it. There is one asteroid in which this actually works fine. Actually, there's more than one, but the one I've tried it on is the Oasis one because of the heat. So this works well there. Another thing that this thing does is this consumes carbon dioxide. It consumes 333 milligrams per second of carbon dioxide when in use. So that's, if you don't have these things, oxyferns, then that's a great thing to have to diffuse some of the CO2 as it recycles it as oxygen. But it's a very minute amount and it's not really worth it. Especially since you actually want some CO2 to collect for the purpose of the shrooms later on. So it's not something that you necessarily want. In any case, it fails to meet the production criteria that you could get with an oxygen diffuser. Here is let's play the little top trumps, okay? With an algae terrarium, you get 40 grams per second of oxygen. With oxygen diffuser, you get 500 grams per second of oxygen. Now, this doesn't need any power, but it needs water. This doesn't need any water, it just needs algae. This needs algae and water. This needs just algae. It needs 500 grams of algae. It says 550 grams per second. Yeah, it's not really that much because it doesn't run all the time, and but it produces so much more. And I never managed to waste all of the algae. Now, in some asteroids, like in the Oasis one, you don't get many slime uh, biomes. You only get a few. So slime isn't available and algae are not available. So when you don't have any algae, then yeah, that whole thing drops into water. But then those asteroids, you have oxyferns. So in the asteroids where you don't have algae and where you don't have slime, you have oxyferns. So generally you don't have a situation in where you want to use the algae terrarium. It just isn't worth it. However, there is a design for an oxygen generator using the polluted water you get from the algae terrarium, because whenever they flush it, the dupes leave a bottle of polluted water on the ground. And if you can set it up properly, you can use that to create an oxygen generator that creates a hell of a lot of oxygen. Broadcar did a video about that, which is on his channel, of course. And if you are playing on some of the apps like the Oasis one, check it out because you can create an insane amount of oxygen using algae terrariums. But essentially you're abusing the polluted water that they produce because they bottle it for you right under you and they use some of the CO2. And you can have the excess polluted water turn into regular water. You only lose 10 grams of water for each use, but still, these things are just better. Whenever you have algae available, you want an oxygen diffuser and nothing else, because it creates a lot of oxygen for I'm not sure. I think 8 dupes. 2 of them will supply with all the oxygen you need. They don't use a lot of power. They don't really. The heat they make can be offset with a Wheezeworth. Wheezeworths are essentially limitless, even though they need fertilization from with phosphorite. There's so much phosphorite almost always. It's never an issue. At least not on this type of asteroid where you have them. Where you don't have Wheezeworths to offset a temperature, it could be an issue, but even then I would be dubious on how much of an issue that would be. Again, different asteroids take different approaches, and when we do different colonies, you will see what my methods are for those different approaches. For this one, it's fine, and I completely forgot about this. And so which way was it flipped? This way. And also, when you're making a water cooler, this concept that I didn't work for me this time around. This works fine if it's in a cold biome because the cold of the cold biome also works to cool off the water. If it's in a regular biome, it won't. It will cool it to the ambient temperature of the biome it's in, but it will take ages to do so. So it works as a passive cooling, but not effective. Ultimately, you do want to have these types of things set up. You don't have to have these anti-entropy thermal nullifier for every one of them, but it helps. And one of these refrigerators can cool multiple things. Like in this case, I'm only using it to cool one thing, but it's easy to just make this pipe go further. So after the end of this loop, it continues going further, or you can split it apart early on, or make vents that are again uh, tied into automations, so that when this one is cool, it doesn't start it, but when it needs to go another way, you can make a vent that's connected to a different automation that guides it where it is. So you can, again, you can automate it a million ways. Just talking about it makes me want to try it all out all at once, and I can't. I mean, I can, but it just would take a lot of time for nothing. Okay, time to let people work again. So we will enable this building. Now we hopefully fixed all the problem areas, and you guys can go back to work. Okay, so they did pass through something hot on the way there. You know what? Oh, because they still haven't fixed that when they... Yeah, I did the same thing twice. Go me. Okay, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm gonna start setting up one more, even though we won't be able to use it, but that's fine. And we want this. There we go. We will need a bunch of glass to fix those, so we might as well make some glass. Perfect. What else? What else? I see that there is some CO. No, this is oxygen. Sorry. Yeah, there is no CO2 to use. Just the oxygen. Refilling that. And as you can see, even with a third user of that oxygen, that single farm is still more than enough. I mean, with a combination with other two. I think I'm gonna do these things more often because they are such a nice supplement for oxygen. And when you have puffs, you can also do them. I think do need to start playing with puffs as well. So next time we start a colony, we will make a puffed colony as well. puffs just make slime for you, and you don't really need to feed them. You just need to give them polluted oxygen. Okay. 497. I think we will actually be ending this stream after 500. After 500 cycles, because it's a nice little round number to end this stream on, and there's really nothing more that I can show you guys for this colony. We've reached a point where what we can do, and going further I could go, but it would take a long time to do it just because of how much it takes to do everything. And yeah, lots of broken buildings because of the mistakes I've made. So next time that I'm playing, I will do better, I promise. So you can see the monument to my mistakes over here. But it was nice to see that these things did work. They just didn't work correctly for long enough because the scanners didn't have enough vision. So they weren't catching everything. And also for some reason it wasn't pulling enough power. That's another thing I have to worry about next time around. I need to make sure that they have enough power. You are gonna get stuck. Okay, you didn't. Which surprises me because you are always... Okay, not you. I thought it was Justin. Justin is the one who constantly gets stuck. Because Justin is like that. He likes to make my life miserable. He will be watching this, recording this stream later, and he will be like, "Why were you saying crap about me again?" He knows I love him. Okay. Again, you lied to me. We do make enough oxygen. You lie to me, game. You lie. You lie. You dirty liar. Check the temperature. Temperature is fine. It's actually getting a bit colder in some part of the base. Yeah, we'll let the heat in, but that's fine. I am going to employ this method in the future as well, because this seems to be quite effective way of getting more water and cooling it off. Just putting a couple of ice cubes. Well, that is not always going to be available. It's only available when you have ice biomes. When you don't have ice biomes, then you can't use that method. Okay, all of these need glass. Did I make glass? Yes, I have enough glass, so let them fix this when they can. Check something. Uh-huh. Yeah, I figured that it was saying that there is not enough oxygen because there is not enough power. Because we are now running only on coal power, which means time to enable this thing. There we go. Now there'll be plenty of power and also plenty of CO2 and plenty of heat. you know. There we go, back to normal, oxygen generation permanently. No, well, until it runs out of power again. I pretty much figured it's going to be that we run out of power. 18 cycles to go, so it's not a big deal. If I did this a bit more smartly, then I wouldn't be in a situation. But I just connect this, didn't actually made any reservoirs. That was a mistake. Again, something that we will do better next time around. We have 700,000 calories. We've made 200,000 calories of food in this stream. So yeah, it can be done. And that's what, for 13 dupes, these 2 farms of mushrooms. And whatever eggs we managed to get. And we did manage to get quite a bit of eggs. We actually need more critters. A lot of them died, unfortunately. I'm gonna look into automating this, because there's probably a way to automate the farms, but I just didn't do that before. Because you want to automate as much as you can. Next time I'm going to automate this power plant as well, so that they don't have to come in to feed the coal. I'm just gonna put an auto sweeper here and make it feed it the coal. There we go. 1 cycle until the end. And that will be our very first streamed colony. I must say I'm actually quite pleased with how my very first streams are happening. I'm learning so much and I'm having a great time doing it. I'm also more relaxed now and I can talk a lot more while I'm playing. Uh, Not something that I was sure I was doing, because I can't really multitask. No, I don't have such talents. Yeah, another thing that I wasn't playing around with for these kinds of things, and again, something that I will be utilizing, is Sweepy Dock. It's a sweepy bot, and that sweeps the ground of the materials it has and deploys it, and then it can be collected. So when I was doing that auto sweeper network, it was because I completely forgot that the sweepies exist, because it's a new thing and I haven't played around with it a lot, and I should, because they're useful. They're very useful. Next time that we're playing, I will be setting it up in the places like uh, the farms that actually have stuff that remains on the ground, like coal or whatever. Either that, or I'm going to be having the auto sweeper. But the sweepy itself makes more sense because he travels all the way around the ground and collects, while the auto sweeper has a fixed range. How much do they take in power though? 240 watts. They're not exactly not power hungry. So next time I'm also gonna make a bigger generator room with more batteries. And again, like I said before, you can put one smart battery and connect it to as many other batteries as you want, and the total charge will be the same as the total charge in all the batteries. So you can store, while this is a single smart battery, what we are actually saving is a charge of all of the batteries. So if this has a charge of 10,000, what we actually have stored is 70,000. So it's that kind of thing. So you don't need to line up multiple smart batteries. You need one smart battery and a bunch of normal batteries, and you can store as much charge as you want. Ultimately, you do want more batteries to store a bigger charge, because the more charge you have, that's more time that everything can run without the generator running. Ultimately, you do have to have more than one power source at hand. You want to have, there we go, 500. You do want to have more than one for the reasons because unless you have a hydrogen vent, you won't have enough hydrogen. If you don't have enough natural gas generation or saved enough natural gas, you will run dry and you will have to rely on coal or something else. Even solar power has its limitations because while there are, well, as you can see, when there's stuff falling from the sky, the gates will be closed and you'll have to get power from other places. There was one thing that we didn't get to play with, and again, that's something that I will try more in the future, and that's playing with Steam vents, because there are 3 Steam vents in this map, so we could have gotten more out of that. But that's pretty much where we will be ending this stream today, and that's pretty much where we will be ending this first colony. As I said, we didn't get far up here where they still, I mean, we did get to see this work for a while, but then everything kept breaking because the door didn't close in time. The stuff came through, and yeah, and it would take many cycles more before we get or launch a rocket into space, because for that you too again need to have that clear. So we will do that some other time in some other colony. It would be just tedious, and there's no point. You can do that yourself, and of course you can do it in the test mode as well if you want to. But as of this colony, this is where we'll be ending it on the 500th cycle. Let me just see. So the colony summary is that we have a lot of things. I'm just gonna see if there's any kind of a specific summary that we can look at. So let us see how our colony grew. So this is a time lapse of our colony. It's taking up very slowly actually. Yeah, that's very slow. So screw it. In any case, this is where we'll be ending our first ever colony on stream. It was an ideal asteroid, and we did achieve a self-sufficient colony that can go on for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of more cycles before it reaches any kind of a problem. It is moderated. It has a very good temperature. It has reliable power sources. It has reliable reserves. It can run through any situation, and it's developing its own fuel, completely self-sufficient, and that's pretty much it. Next time we will be doing a different kind of asteroid when we come back, but we will be putting a pause on Oni for the time being. Uh, Next Sunday we will be playing Factorio, the 1.0 release, and we will be playing Factorio for the foreseeable future. I'm probably gonna just run it all the way to the spaceship, since Factorio is a bit more streamlined than Oni is. because of how it's made. And on Wednesdays, I still haven't decided what I'm going to be playing instead of the Shipbreaker. If the Shipbreaker's update comes out with a new ship, I might actually just play that to play the new ship. But if it doesn't, I'll be playing a new game on Wednesday. What game it will be? Well, when I know, you will know. Until then, that's pretty much it. Everybody who joined me today, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, then join me next Sunday, next Wednesday, and so on. And if you... I'm kind of lost my trail of thought right now. Never mind. Uh, in any case, wherever you are in the world, have a good morning, good day, good evening, good night, and I hope I'll catch you next time. Have a good day, everybody. See ya.